The next session will discuss the recent trends and best practices that would define an efficient delivery of major rail projects. I am pleased to now invite Mr. Fang Qing, Director, Infrastructure Advisory, KPMG Malaysia, to the stage to moderate this session. Mr. Lin will be joined by Ms. Silvia Halim, Director for Construction, PT MRT Jakarta from Indonesia. Ms. Dawn Chui, Regional Director, Asia Pacific Omnia Services from China. Mr. Shahrin Abdol Salam, Senior Vice President, Plans and Development, SMRT Trains from Singapore. Mr. Juan Alfonso, President and CEO, Light Rail Manila Corporation from the Philippines. And Ms. Cassandra Gash, Senior Signaling Project Manager, Rail Projects Victoria from Australia. So our speakers are putting their mics on now. Please welcome our speakers on the stage.
Well, I think we should just wait for Miss Silvia first before we start. It's about technology, but we're still having...
Yeah, exactly. Please welcome Ms. Silvia. Okay, Mr. Lin, the stage is yours.
All right. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Chairperson. I'm conscious that we are between you and lunch, so we will try and keep it on time. But all I can promise you is this session, I think, will be very, very interesting. I've spoken to all the speakers here today, and I think you will be very entertained and informed. So again, good morning, ladies and gentlemen, distinguished guests. My name is Fang Qing. I lead KPMG's Malaysia's infrastructure advisory practice, and I also coordinate our rail practitioners, rail advisor practitioners in KPMG Asia Pacific. I am also an associate member of the Women in Rail, which I'm very proud of, to support this cause, and well done to Natasha and the team for putting this whole event together. I also want to thank, and I'm absolutely delighted to speak at this event. So really, this second session here is focused on the rail sector. So earlier we talked about leadership, and throughout the day we'll talk about women involvement and empowerment, etc. But really, this session is for the rail geeks, right? But I think there's a lot of the session today. I think it's focused on this. The session now is focused on three things. I think one, the fact that rail is a growing sector in this region, and is in line with the idea of connectivity. Connectivity is the most important thing in our generation, be it the internet or also sort of rail and aviation, etc. Two, I think just to touch on the rise of the development in technology and how it's very disruptive, but also provides a massive opportunity for many sectors, including the rail sector. And then lastly is on investment. So any investment that we do in technology and any infrastructure that we, rail infrastructure that we do, has to be one, value for money, and is well spent. So our presenters here will talk on these points today. Without further ado, really, I'll just go straight in. The format of the session is very simple. We've got our 5 presenters here today who would give their presentation on the various initiatives that they have, that they are responsible for in the different markets and countries. They will spend 12 minutes talking about that, and then followed by a Q&A session, which I will kick off with a few questions. But again, I'll open it to the floor if you have any questions to ask. So I'll do a quick introduction of our 5 speakers today, and then really just pass it on to the stars of the show. So on my right is Mr. Juan Alfonso. He is the president and CEO of the Light Rail Manila Corporation in the Philippines. They operate what I understand is the oldest LRT line in Southeast Asia. Then to his right is Ms. Chui, who is the regional director of Omnia Services based in China. And then to her right is Shahrin, Abdol Salam. He's the senior vice president for plans and development at SMRT Trains in Singapore. So as you all know, SMRT operates 5 lines and many other public transportation. He may be, he may be less willing to share some state secrets because of who's here today, but I only joke. Then to his right is Ms. Cassandra Gash, who is the Senior Signaling Project Manager at Rail Projects Victoria. And to her right is Ms. Silvia Halim, who is the Director for Construction for MRT Jakarta. And congratulations to her and the team, because the MRT Jakarta line just opened in March, is it? March in 2019. So I think without further ado, if I could just hand on to Mr. Alfonso to talk about the initiatives in Light Rail Manila Corporation. Over to you.
Pointing it this way.
Mr. Alfonso.
So good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Our presentation this morning is going to be about the journey, the journey of Light Rail Manila Corporation. It is true that we are the oldest railway in Southeast Asia. We started in 1984, but since then, the government of the Philippines did a PPP, or private-public partnership, and our company, Light Rail Manila Corporation, has operated the light rail transit since 2015. And this is about our journey. And in today's event, our journey with our team members, the women of Light Rail Manila Corporation. And last for the session is to talk about innovation and digitization of that journey. This is just a short, I think there's no sound, but this is a short video about one of our female drivers.
Trabahong pang babae, pang lalaki. Pinush ko yung sarili ko para dito sa trabaho nito na kaya kong, para sa 2 kong anak. Iba yung pakiramdam ko pagka nakangiti yung mga pasero na babae yung nagdadrive. Proud ako sa sarili ko, babae yung driver namin.
Just a quick background, since we're at the Women in Rail Conference. In terms of gender diversity, according to the World Economic Forum, gender diversity I think is measured right now at 68%. And in terms of countries measured in terms of gender diversity, I was happy to discover that the Philippines is actually over and above this gender diversity quotient. It's actually the 8th in the world in terms of gender diversity. And in terms of women in management positions or boardrooms or partnership positions, we have it at 45% to 50%, which was quite good. I had a conversation with some of my friends last Saturday evening and told them I was going to this conference. And I actually got the same response, but it's a Women in Rail conference. What are you doing there? So I asked them, I said, I said, did you know that the Philippines is actually doing quite well in terms of gender diversity? And one of my friends actually told me, she said, I'm not surprised. Because in the 1500s, even before Magellan came to the Philippines, women were allowed to own property and were allowed to divorce. So the women in the 1500s were allowed to divorce, but the women in the Philippines in 2019 are not allowed to divorce. So we actually have about 32% of our employees which are female, and a lot of these are in the support departments. We're trying to encourage more women in the engineering practices of maintenance and operations. We have 3 women in our management committee, the head of our human resources, health and safety, and our corporate communications. Recently, our chief financial officer, who was also a lady, transferred to another corporation. But we would have had 4 out of 10 if she was still on board. So in terms of a background of Light Rail Manila Corporation, we have 3 systems in the Philippines. And we operate Line 1, which is the green line. And this comprises of 20 stations, about 20 kilometers. And it's also, in the PPP project I mentioned earlier, we're also extending this line about 11 kilometers to Cavite, which is a province south of Manila. This has started this year, and this will be completed by 2022. So our system, like what we mentioned, is one of the oldest systems. Started in 1981, was operational in 1985. And 2014 was really the start of our involvement when the government bid out the PPP project and our firm won the concession to operate Line 1 for the next 30 years. A lot of this information is something that many of you know. Long term, we feel rail is the most efficient form of transportation in terms of time and in terms of cost. And in the big sprawling mega cities of the world, KL, Manila, Tokyo, for example, rail will always have a large role in terms of being the backbone of transportation in these networks. Our journey for Light Rail Manila was really composed of two phases. The first was rehabilitating the existing system. We rehabilitated, we replaced the rails for 20 kilometers. We're in the process of changing the signaling system to an all-Alstom system, and also all of the structural works, such as the parapets and the ballast, were replaced. We're now going into the second phase, where we're building the railroad for the extension phase, another 10 kilometers, which will be done in 2022. So the results of our work, the rehabilitation, we'll just show you the next few slides. We have a 50% increase in the number of trains or light rail vehicles that are available since 2017. And then we have a higher number of trips, and as well as the load factor, which has improved for the customers, having more capacity. We've also had lower headways, shorter waiting times between trains, as well as improved cycle times. The ridership as well has increased. We've increased about 4 to 5% per year, and that trend we feel will continue up to the time that we do the Cavite extension. We're doing a lot of continuous improvements in terms of traffic management, and we'll talk about this a little bit later on our innovation journey. We've gone through also a ISO certification, and we've made a strong push to digitize and innovate a lot of processes and operations in the system. We've done a station partnership. This is since we've been privatized, we had to commercialize and try to extract more revenue from everything possible. So we had a station partnership with Coca-Cola. This is the central station beside the Manila City Hall, which has a 3-year sponsorship agreement with Coca-Cola. And this is a station partnership with Yamaha, and Valentino Rossi of the Yamaha racing team was at our station to inaugurate that event. We also changed the signages and introduced a new graphic design. So from the very old system, you're seeing a system that was upgraded in terms of station look, in terms of station operations, and now very visually in terms of the signages. So this is the Cavite extension of our company, which will be about 10 kilometers when it is completed. Just in terms of innovation, just quickly, These are some of the samples of the innovations that we've had. We've had to 3D print some of the older parts that are no longer available in the market. We also developed an integrated operations control system called Atoms. which won an award in the Asia Pacific Stevie Awards. These put together a lot of manual processes in an in-house console for the operations department. We also launched last week a safety app called RIA, Recognize, Inform, and Act. Instead of having a lot of reports, our teams put together an app that allows you to take photos and send any safety issues to the managers involved. We also are launching next month a rider-based app which shows you the time, schedule of trains, and a lot of trip information per station, including restaurants and tourist sites. These are just some of the awards that we've had on our journey. And some customer feedback. So finally, I'd just like to leave you with one thought. And I take that, I lifted that from one of the speakers at the UITP event. And it's a quote from Henry Thoreau. And his quote was that it's not, in anything in life, it's not what you look at, but it's what you see. So congratulations to everyone. Congratulations to Natasha on the event. And congratulations to the students.
Thank you. Thank you, Juan. I mean, if there's one takeaway I could take from there, really is it was very interesting to go through the journey of the oldest LRT system in Southeast Asia and how bringing in a private side delivery partner has, one, I think, improved service delivery, two, increased ridership, and three, introduced new technology as well to the users. So what I found really interesting was that 3D printer for some of your spare parts. You know, I'm more of a consultant, less of a tech guy, but that for me was interesting. Thank you very much. I'll pass on now to Dawn. Yep.
If you have nothing to do, smile, right? Thank you. Thank you. Okay. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. It's such an honor to be here to share with you innovation in railway. Natasha is a good friend of mine. She gave me 3 seconds to think whether to accept the invitation or not. So already like lots of algorithm are in my mind. Why am I doing this? I think I'm the least qualified person to be in this section. But I'm so eager to be part of like the Women in Rail initiative. So after the 3 seconds, of course, I grabbed the opportunity. Women should grab the opportunity, as we learned from section 1. So thank you, Natasha. I think you've done a great job. After today, you're no longer Natasha. You are the legend of the sector. So in the next 10 minutes, I'm going to share with you my perspective of innovations that happens in railway, my perspective, a woman perspective. You can agree with me or not, like it's up to you, but I do want to share with you a little bit of my journey so as to like so as to make us more motivated, make me more motivated in the way to come to continue. So I'll start by like sharing with you like a little bit about me. I do not want to elaborate on this one, but you can see this like especially for the younger executives here. You can see that I do not stay in one organization 25 years. I do jump on paths. And I do cross paths when I see there are good opportunities and when I see there are good bosses, there are good people. Why not? If there are things we have to pursue, we ask our heart, we ask ourselves, why are we not doing this? So you can see from my background, I jump from advocacy, I jump from research to advocacy and then to innovation. Because at that time, about like 5-6 years ago, we all realized that since 2007, the first iPhone has launched in the market. Everything is changing. And then the pace of changing is going to be even more rapid. So I'm very, very eager to learn about innovation. So my journey or my backpack do share with you something is that I read a lot. I study a lot. And if we women, we are not sure what to do, don't only ask the men, because they tell lies sometimes. Consult more men. Don't ask only one person. Consult a few others. And then the nature of women as personality or characteristics is that I can share with you, I've been speaking a lot in Hong Kong, in China, over Asia. I do find that women do have several traits that make us stand out from the men. We are more resilient. We do want to ask more questions. We do listen, like what Leon was telling us in the morning. And I think this is something we have to give back to the other gender as well. So these are the things that we should be proud of ourselves, and we carry on this with us on our backpack, continue with our journey. So without further ado, I need to also introduce to you a little bit about where I am, because I used to manage one of the advocacy group in this region. I started a lot of the activities. I made a lot of initiatives. Some of them a little bit crazy, and some of them I do have listeners. I do have friends that echo with me. I do thank them. Everybody opens door for everyone. And then, today, I joined this company, Omnia. This is a very, very small company, in Italy. But then, it's already been in business 25 years. So we sell avionics and electronic components, to train operators, to aviation companies. So today, some of our largest customers would be Airbus, Thales, and then Leonardo, Senna, BAE Systems in the UK, ST Engineering in Singapore. From this, and it opens door for this company to do some other thing. March 2019, President Xi Jinping of China signed the first MOU with the Italian government on the Belt and Road Initiative. So all of a sudden, Italy becomes the first country in Europe to work with China on the BRI. And then, because of my connection with the government and with a lot of the ministry in Hong Kong and China on the innovation practices, now we are managing the China-Italy Innovation Center. But on the innovation journey, if you are only depending on one enterprise or one organization's effort, you are not going to work. You have to synergize. The key word is synergy, in innovation. So immediately, what we have done, we're still building this. In fact, this weekend, if anyone would be free, I would want to welcome you to join me in my inauguration party in Shenzhen for the China-Italy Innovation Center, which we are opening on this Saturday. This is an incubation center, and we'll have a lot to share with anyone of you here who is interested to innovate yourself or innovate the sector. Now, you can see the list underneath. These are the partners so far we have signed, and we are continuing to sign the partners. Now, what we do in this innovation center is that first we want to identify viable cases which could help the industry that excel. And then we do validate, with the business cases. We help them write the BP, the business plan, the proposal. Now, the important thing is that we do find monies for people. Because, without money, we can't do anything. So funding is really most important for innovation to start pick up. Regulatory depends on the government. We can't do much about that. But once there is a market force, once there's a paradigm, the government will respond. Like this is like usually like what we have seen in the sector. So like we do find investment like from private sector as well as from government public funding, and then we help people to build the intern team. And then like most importantly is that like we are trying to link to connect the commercialization opportunity. I must confess on this last point, we are not doing enough. We have to do more. And that's why I'm very happy that I am here sitting in front of like all the experts here. Like I'm making an advocacy that we need to build more efforts in order to commercialize all the innovations that is happening like today and tomorrow. But what are they? What are they, right? So since I'm speaking on innovation, I try to like, again, set the scene a little bit. My research skills like taught me that without understanding the characteristics, the background of anything, you're going to have a bias if you do this. So like, what are the innovations that we are facing? What is the innovation that we are facing in the railway sector? Let's do a dichotomy. Like imagine in this world, if there are just two types of innovations, like which are they? So there could be the disruptive innovation. Well, what is a disruptive innovation? Very easy, like iPhone. Like once we have the iPhone launch, immediately the personal computer market seems to be gone. We do not need that. Like a market or a value is totally disrupted. I'll give you another example, is like diagnostic healthcare. I work in the healthcare industry a lot as well because like healthcare is another big area which innovation is like picking up. So when we are having like, say, blood testing, not the bad blood type, Elizabeth Home, not those type, but once we have the diagnostic tool on healthcare, we are changing like all the therapeutic treatment like practices. So like this is disruptive innovation. And then there is another type of innovation, which I will call them the progressive innovation. Progressive innovation is usually institutionalized. What is the meaning of the word institutionalized? Basically, it means that it can be taught. It can be trained. Once it is institutionalized, we can build a framework and then we can like develop like how we could build the innovation achievement around that. So progressive innovation in a way is non-disruptive. It can coexist with the current technology. Women have to be stronger. Okay. Railway innovation is progressive. Railway innovation is never disruptive. I would bet that like in 40 years' time, no matter how we innovate transport or mobility, railway will still be there. Like it will be in parallel with a lot of other forms of automated transit, but railway will still be there. Now, if you ask yourself, or if you ask these experts in railway, like they can tell you, like I think like they most probably will agree with me that probably the stages of railway involvements are largely the same. I have been sitting in the MTR office in Hong Kong for many years, and then like MTR this year is celebrating the 40 years of business, and then it's still the same. It stays the same, like depending on the planning and design, financing, regulatory, construction, O&M, and asset arrangement. Like it just depends on like how you cook your dish. So sorry. The next slide, I would like to share with you, like although like we are bound by a framework, but there are empirical evidence that show us that there are things that we can do, we can innovate. I'm just sharing with you like a few things because I can talk for weeks, not days, like on innovation concepts and then proven example. But then I would like to highlight to to you that no matter how small the innovation journey or how big the innovation journey, we can innovate. This is a maglev train in Beijing, which is keep in running. Maglev, we will hear more in the afternoon. But maglev is picking up as a emerging form in China for the low speed maglev. Beijing as well as Qingdao and Qingyuan in China are testing their maglev train. Probably this will be a newest form of transit we are seeing in China. And then you can see this train we call the Sectrovo by CRRC. This is what is the cool thing about this is the carbon fiber the material outside, which the the technician is testing for this. Accordingly, when this carbon fiber train is being run, it will be 13% lighter than the previous model that they have launched, and they claim that they will save 15% of the energy consumed. And this is a hyperloop, in test in Sichuan Emei Southwest Jiao Tong University. I have seen 2 years ago. I mean, you have seen all the Tesla hyperloop exercising. But then what these Chinese are doing is that they are trying to combine hyperloop with personal rapid transit in order to make a new form of transit to be running in the urban environment. This is another lab adjacent to that hyperloop. When we have seen this, this is exactly a PRT concept. Today, they are testing this in Hangzhou in China. Now, this is another project that I want to present to you. Of course, we don't have time to go into every details, but I want to highlight to you, big or small, we are innovating. Airlight, is something which we are working on, which they claim that, according to the lab test, is the first type of paint which could help cleanse the air pollutants, including sulfur oxide, nitrogen dioxide. And then, in the lab test, the nitrogen oxide amount is reduced 80% after using Airlight. Imagine this is being used at station. It will provide us with a lot more healthier environment. And even in very polluted environment like tunnel, it will cleanse 50% of the pollutant. This is another project that we are working. It's called IS Clean Air. It is so far the first ever lab-proven result that they can cleanse the polluted air, including PM10, PM2.5, and PM1, not only indoor but also outdoor. So today in Rome, it is already being used in airport. This is the Rome airport, in G7 Summit 2017, in exhibition hall, and also on roadside. Now, I'm just highlighting this to you to show that these are some of the examples which we are contributing to the railway sector. Of course, there are others. There are a lot of a long list of projects that we are working on as well. Now, the last thing I want to just share with you, since we are on the first inaugurated Women in Rail conference, I want to do a little bit of advocacy here, because this is something I've learned so far in my journey. We have seen that railway is a progressive innovation phenomenon, meaning that we are so bound by the work criterion. It is working. Why are we changing? It is okay. Why are we changing? But what if there are things underneath the iceberg we do not know? What do? If we are not preparing ourselves, we would be missing the opportunity. And then there are a lot of invisible options which we do not know. So I'm calling for questions or answers or suspicions or effort, in order to build together, how do we proceed for more prototyping, the applications, how do we evaluate the total cost ownership? How do we benchmark with the existing technology? Technology doesn't need to be always new. Some old technology with refreshing could be good. But how do we benchmark on the technology side? Today, we have done a lot of policy benchmarking. We are proceeding to standards benchmarking. We are not yet ready to do so much in technology benchmarking for the railway sector. And to this one, I'm speaking to my friend. We have to do something like together, calling support like of the room together. So I am just like proposing an option that like in the healthcare sector, people do a lot of alliance by forming an institutional framework, like from the academic to the industry, so that like we push together, we bridge together like the invisible opportunity. How do we link the contributors? How do we link the adoption, the modular or the validations of the concept? Like there are a lot of these things which we people should do, not segmented by experience. Everyone in this room like do have a mission to contribute back to the sector to help innovation to proceed. So I'm taking a lot of the time. Like if you have suggestions, debates, like questions, suspicions, like do contact me. Any of like the means. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you, Dawn. Very inspiring. Very, very inspiring. So that's why I was meant to time keep, but I decided to let it go.
Women have to be strong.
But I think just on one note, I think we do get quite passionate and inspired about some of these technical stuff. So I mean, if you have questions on what is maglev, what is hyperloop, what are PPPs, well, one, you can use Google, but two, use this opportunity, especially to the younger crowd, to come speak to any of us here today, and we're happy to I'm sure happy to share what that means. So now over to Shahrin, Encik Shahrin. He's got an interesting presentation on technology. So over to you.
Don, I must first say that this is not a lie. When I first met Natasha sometime late last year, she shared very passionately about women in rail. And she said, let's explore how you can support us, Shahrin. And in a true Singaporean response, I said, okay lah. And little did I know that that means standing here speaking to all of you. Salam sejahtera and a very good afternoon to all the friends and esteemed colleagues from the railway industry. Urban mobility remains as one of the most pressing challenges that many cities encounter, because it affects not only the individuals, but also the economy of the country and the environment on an equal scale. Now, I come from Singapore, and we're a small country, right? And as we move towards 2050, our population is expected to grow to 6.6 million. And this is an increase of close to 1 million from where we are today. Now, with a land size of merely 720 square kilometers, now this means that the land area is very dense, and that's about 7,700 person per kilometer square. Now, fitting in 6.6 million in that land space becomes a greater challenge. Therefore, the efficient use of limited land space becomes more critical for a country's growth and development. Well, a transportation network built around roads and cars is therefore not sustainable. Rail must become the backbone of our transportation system, and it is paramount for Singapore to continue to evolve our public transport network to cater for more inclusive, affordable, and environment-friendly city. Now, the government has been very diligent in making significant investments to build new rail lines and also to renew the existing ones. Now, all these investments are very important to keep our rail network continue to deliver a high level of service and performance and become the mode of choice. But to be stronger, right. Now, after a consultative process with all the stakeholders, the Land Transport Authority, LTA, has recently published a Land Transport Master Plan 2040. The bold vision is to make Singapore's commuting public enjoy a fast and efficient travel to home, work, and play. The 20 minutes town means that all journeys to the neighborhood centers using the walk, cycle, and ride modes will be made within 20 minutes. And the 40 minutes city allows the commuter to reach their place of work or city center from their home within 40 minutes. Now, all these are done as part of the overall urban planning and the start of that journey towards future urban mobility, well, it starts from now. Now, there are several new interesting rail development projects in Singapore. We are on target to open a new station along the existing North-South line, and this station will serve about close to 17,000 residents in the new estate called Canberra, somewhere in the north of Singapore. The latest line in Singapore, called the Thomson East Coast Line, or TEL in short, it starts from the northern part of Singapore, somewhere in Woodlands, if you're familiar. Now, it's currently going through testing and commissioning, and SMRT Trains is the appointed operator for that line, and we certainly look forward to operating that system very soon. The Circle Line, the one that you see on the top right, well, it's not yet a circle, but it will be soon, come 2025, with the addition of 3 new stations. And this will make commuting from the east-west towards the center of Singapore more connected and more convenient for all to travel in Singapore. And beyond that, Singapore is already planning for new lines for the future. For instance, the Cross Island Line and the Jurong Regional Line. And these are basically this is basically meant to serve Singaporeans and people in Singapore even better. However, even as we look forward to the many new lines, we still have to manage our existing rail network. SMRT operates close to 150 kilometers of rail, just over 100 stations, and on a daily basis, we carry 2.3 million passengers. Our north, south, and east-west line are the oldest in Singapore, having started its operations way back when I was still in school, in 1987. Renewal of these aging assets is the one that keeps my colleagues and I very busy. Working closely with LTA, we have completed several projects to replace our signaling system, the third rail, the power rail, and the sleepers. Now, we are still going through many more renewals, even as we continue to operate those lines. And I kind of use this analogy for what we're going through now. It's just like a surgeon, all right, having to do a surgery on a patient, right? But the problem is, in our circumstances, this particular patient doesn't want to keep still, right? So the surgeon has to do all his surgery while this patient wants to move around. The network in Singapore, as we undergo through the renewal, can't stop. So it is a fine balance between running your existing rail lines and renewing it at the same time. And this is definitely a challenge that, as us PTOs, will take in our stride, and we strive to deliver a high reliability and a service level that our passengers expect from us. Well, so how do we as PTO then transform ourselves to deliver rail excellence and at the same time keeping it sustainable? In my opinion, I think a clear strategy of people, process, and technology is needed. Our people must continue to be trained and retrained to adapt new technologies and better ways of working. As our systems evolve, PTOs must look ahead to determine the competencies that are required with the evolution of the systems and service demands, and ensure that our people have the skills necessary for the future. Learning must be made as a lifelong culture. Now, in SMRT, we have adopted Kaizen very actively. Kaizen, meaning change for good or continuous improvements, empowers all our staff to look at their processes and come up with meaningful changes to drive efficiency, productivity, and better ways to deliver our rail services to our commuters. No ideas are too small, and all ideas are good ideas. When staff take ownership in improving their work, it sends a very strong signal that we have a community of railway professionals that constantly wants to excel. And having processes in what we do is key to achieving the highest standard. Well, next is technology. It is an enabler. By embracing technology, and there's a lot out there, it will help transform ourselves to become a data-driven railway. Data, if harnessed properly, can provide rich information and insights on our operations and lead us to improve our reliability and sustainability. And speaking of technology, and I do apologize for this very busy slide, right? It's not meant to be very small so that you can't take the picture, right? Yeah? But really, railways are indeed a very complex system, comprising of many systems, of which systems must work within themselves and with others. So ensuring that we know how each system operates is important in driving reliability, safety, and efficient use of resources. Now in SMRT, we've got lots of technology that we deploy, condition monitoring, you name it, I think we've got that. And I think that's also similar to many railways in the world as well. So technology is important to us, but I am not advocating that we switch all our legacy systems tomorrow to a high-tech railway. With new railway projects, we can always consider deploying technology upfront as part of the design and acquisition stage. But with brownfield projects, you can always plan ahead. Yeah? So the ability to look ahead and plan and decide when is the best time to introduce the new technology becomes very important. Now, doing it too early, it will be very costly because that's not in tandem with the asset life. Doing too much will also be very costly because you will end up having technology that's not going to be put to best use, or platforms that, once you put in, you probably have to build another one. Right? Therefore, an integrated approach towards applied rail technology will help us to focus on the business needs and the service missions that we wish to achieve. Technology will help us achieve that goal. Well, at the end of the day, we are in the business of moving people and enhancing lives through a friendly, affordable, and efficient transport network. And that's why it's important for us to look at urban mobility. Now, as an operator, we have a very clear focus. Our role is to operate the various railway lines that the government of Singapore has entrusted upon SMRT as best as we could, and in the most efficient manner as ever possible. Now, let me just conclude with this. We speak a lot about technology. The biggest challenge of technology is not the technology. It is about people. It is about us, you as leaders. It's about our managers, and it's about all our staff, all our colleagues in the railway fraternity. Everyone must work together to identify the specific business needs, develop collectively, collaboratively the solutions, and embrace those change. And with that, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Shahrin. Again, very fascinating. That one busy slide there was I found it very interesting. Ms. Cassandra, probably over to you. We probably have to keep a bit of a tight ship now.
Hello, everyone. My name is Cassandra Gash. I was asked only 2 weeks ago to provide a presentation here today, and it would have been so easy to have said, no, I don't have much time to present. But I wanted to say yes for 2 reasons. Firstly, I've tried wherever I can in my career to say yes, because I know putting yourself into a challenging position, in an uncomfortable one, is where you grow. And also, I love the rail industry, and I believe women have so much to offer. So today I would like to give you a bit of a flavour for the Melbourne Rail projects. Sorry. Right, wrong way. So the Melbourne Rail network is quite different to Kuala Lumpur. It is radial, where all the railway lines converge into the centre, into a underground rail loop that was built in the 1980s. So we often call it an octopus structure. So the reason why it has this structure is that Melbourne is a monocentric city, where most of the businesses have their operations in the core city. So the rail patronage doubled between 2000 and 2010, and it is expected to double again in 2030. This is driven by a rapid population growth, inner suburban jobs, and also commuter preference. People are choosing rail over road because the parking costs in the city are astronomical. The traffic on the road is terrible, and also people would like to make sustainable decisions when it comes to methods of transportation. So the Melbourne Rail Network needs a quantum change to tackle the need to service the people that want to use the rail, and it is already choked as it is. So what are the levers that one can do to meet this demand? We can either build new railway lines, we can build and install longer trains, or reconfigure the trains to allow more passengers to be on the train, or we can deploy smarter signalling systems that enable trains to run closer together and more reliably. The Metro Tunnel project is a project that uses all these levers to deal with the bottlenecks in the inner city area. The project includes a twin 9-kilometre bored tunnel that connects the western suburb of Sunbury to the eastern suburbs of Cranbourne-Pakenham, creating a new line. There will be 5 new underground stations with platform screen doors, and a new CBTC, a communications-based train control system with a grade of automation level 2 in the stations. This enables a capability for 24 trains per hour in the underground area, with a recovery of 30 trains per hour. There will be 65 trains fitted with CBTC, and these trains are longer than current ones. Currently we have 6 cars. We're extending them to 7 cars, which will provide 25% extra passenger loading, and this can be extended in the future to 10 cars, which will offer 75% extra loading. So the new trains that are being built will offer capacity for the new longer trains of 10 cars. Once commissioned, the Metro Tunnel project will offer capacity benefits to not just the Sunbury-Pakenham line, but also to the other lines, because one rail loop has been removed from the underground area, which offers additional services and slots for the other lines. So I'd like to touch on, very briefly, 4 of the key challenges that this project faces. The Metro Tunnel project is an 11 billion Australian dollar project, so it's not possible for one company alone to deliver it. Rail Projects Victoria considered at great length how best to cut up the project in terms of its geography and the subsystems, so that we were able to get the best out of the organisations and the alliances coming together to deliver it, but also so that it was able to be delivered as one project. So there are 3 projects, or 3 work packages delivering this scope: 1 public-private partnership for the underground area, and 2 alliances. Alliance is quite common as a contractual model in Australia because the projects are often complicated, scope is probably not as well defined as it could be, and also it's the best way to get the operator involved in the decision making. So each of the work packages bring different expertise to working on the project, but they all need to work together because it's recognised that there are many interfaces on the project. Rail Projects Victoria created a systems integration framework and a systems integration team to try to tackle this interface issue. So this recognises that there are packages interfaces within the packages which are fully responsible by the work package, but in between packages and between the operator, they spend a lot more attention and the framework that they've put together provides that transparency of how interfaces are managed. So Melbourne has gradually replaced the 1950s relay-based technology with processor-based interlockings, but now with the need for greater performance requirements, we need to look for new ways of delivering projects. So we're looking at train-to-wayside communication-based technology. So the state had to make a few key decisions. Do we go with CBTC or ETCS? Do we go LTE or Wi-Fi? Australia is quite conservative in the deployment of technology, and we really do want to employ something that's been proven in the past, but that often can mean it's not leading edge. But in the end, we have chosen a technology, so CBTC, which is proven, but also does meet our RAL forecast demands for day one of operations, which is 2024. With any rollout of new technology, a clear migration strategy is essential for efficient and safe rollout at deployment. So Melbourne is utilising a progressive rollout across 9 stages, which uses over and back testing to build confidence in the product, system, and also the end users. So introducing a new technology in a greenfield environment is hard enough. In Melbourne, we're introducing new technology in a brownfield environment. The new CBTC technology has to interface with an existing train control system for timetable management, power control system, trains, and wayside equipment. And even wayside equipment that is currently being commissioned, and we might have to uninstall. So it means that the new system needs to adapt to the existing network so that the operator can have a similar user experience to the old and the new system. RPV took the mantra, change the product? No. Change the people, not the product, where possible. To do this, however, knowledge sharing between the project entities was essential so that the technology provider and the operator and the client could make informed decisions about product limitations to ensure that engineering decisions could be made on a value for money basis. I am in the technology work package, the RAL Systems Alliance, and I'm currently working on the adaptation issue. Even though I'm working on a Melbourne RAL project, the technology provider is based in Thailand. So I've moved to Thailand 1 year ago to work with the subject matter experts, learn the system, because I come from the old school world of processor-based interlocking. So the best way we thought to tackle that issue was to me be located in Thailand and try to merge those two worlds together. It's still early days, but we have opened up the communication between the different countries. So as an engineer, we can often get caught up in the technical side of these technology projects, but the end user should not be forgotten. So in Melbourne, the acceptance by the operator and also the maintainer is so important. They like to have a big say in how the technology is rolled out, and also because they need to run with the system at the end. The introduction of CBTC is a paradigm shift for how the rail is currently operated on the network. So the Metro rail control system a few years ago consisted of big hardwired panels with big burly blokes that used to manually set routes. So they resisted the change even to computers and mouse operation. So now we're going to say, for normal operation, take a sit back and just rely on the system. You don't understand what's going on, but just trust in it. So we're going to have to take them along the journey, obviously, from the start so that they can have that user experience, can gain trust in the system, so that there's no surprises at the end. So the RAL Systems Alliance is an alliance for that reason. There's a few reasons, but also so that we can get the operators involved early. It's a big change project for them as well. So we want to make sure that key decisions about human factors and operator experience is included early along the journey. So, there's a lot of work going on in Melbourne. The Metro Tunnel project is phase one, I'd say, of a rail transformation that they expect to have in the next 30 years. The learnings from this project in terms of rollout of new technology in a brownfield environment and obtaining timely customer acceptance will be used in the next phase. And the phase two includes regional rail revival, which is about providing high-speed lines and passing loops in the regional corridors. Airport rail link, this has been on the cards for a long time, but there's finally, this is making traction now, and so this will connect to a new super hub in Sunshine, try to decentralise the Melbourne businesses at the moment. There's also going to be a Western Rail Plan which will extend the electrification in Melbourne, and which is really exciting. I can't believe it's happening, which is a 90-kilometre new ring loop which will connect all the railway lines, many new stations, and it's meant to cost $30 to $50 billion. So this is a huge investment that will probably take 10 or so years, decades probably, but it's an amazing time for rail. I'm really blessed to work in an environment and in a business that I really am passionate about, and that there's so much going for it. I hope that we can share more about these projects and where we are with them. I'm sure we would have faced many more challenges, but also lessons to share with you all. So we're excited to be hosting a conference. It's the largest global public transport summit in 2021. I'm sure there'll be a future presenter speaking about this later on, but it's going to be exciting because there's going to be so many people from around the world, and it's the first time in 30 years to happen in the Southern Hemisphere, so that's often a big deal for things to happen outside of Europe. So I hope to see you there. Melbourne is amazing. The coffee is great. So I look forward to seeing you. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Cassandra. I'll now pass on to Ms. Silvia. Before she starts, probably a bit of self-promotion. KPMG is very proud as a consultant to have advised the Victorian government to deliver the Melbourne Metro project that she described earlier. So you know where to find us if you have any questions on delivering your real projects. Sorry, over to you.
Okay, so I'm the last speaker. I'm literally between you and the lunch. So please bear with me, and I'll make it quick. First time that Natasha approached me to participate, to become a speaker, I also asked her, that for this topic, MRT Jakarta is not really efficient because it's a project that was in building, in development since 2009. It took us 10 years to finally finish this project. So it's a project that is more because of determinations and perseverance. And then when you talk about innovations, well, we're just the new kids in the block. So there's so much for us to learn still from our partners, from our other operators in the region. And indeed, we did learn a lot from them. We had a lot of helps from the other operators in the regions through their generosity and their openness to us. We went to see them, we asked them, and then they have been sharing with us very generously and openly. So we thank a lot of our partners in the regions that made it possible for us to finally complete and operate the first MRT in Indonesia. So I'll just start with a brief introductions about our company, MRT Jakarta. It's actually a Jakarta government, Jakarta provincial government-owned company, and our task is to construct, to operate, and as well to look into the business aspect of it, and that includes retail, commercials, as well as the transit-oriented developments of the areas along the corridors and surrounding the stations of MRT Jakarta. And obviously our visions is about increasing mobility and improving the life quality of Jakarta. And this is the current networks in the pipelines for MRT Jakarta that consists the north-south line as well as the east-west line. So as mentioned earlier by Qing, is that we have completed the first half of the north-south line, which is stretching from the southern part of Jakarta to the city center. And then the next one that we are currently doing is that the continuation to the northern part, as well as the east-west line. So the first line that I was mentioning earlier is actually a 16 kilometers MRT line that consists of 6 underground stations and 7 elevated stations. So it was the construction itself started in late 2013, and we finally completed in the March of 2019. So in these first operations, just a quick facts run through is we have 16 trains. It is operating with 5-minute headway during the peak hours, 10 minutes headway during off-peak hours, a total journey of 30 minutes from the southern part of Jakarta to the city center. It's a huge time saving for the Jakartans, because usually from Lebak Bulus to Bundaran HI or the city center, it will take us about 1.5 hours to 2 hours on a good day. On the other day, who knows? So with MRT, for sure, 30 minutes they will reach their destinations. And then in terms of the train operations, we are still at the GOA2. Nevertheless, we are using CBTC signaling system to help us to operate the MRT stations, and to keep the schedule as well. Okay, next. As I mentioned earlier, it took us that many years to complete the first MRT Jakarta, and I'd just like to share, some key challenges that we are facing, and I'm sure some of the people in the rooms that has been involved in such infrastructure projects would probably can relate this very well as well. So like the land acquisitions, we have 632 lots of properties that we have to free up. And then we face so many challenges because a lot of people in Jakarta do not believe about these projects. We have a lot of traumatic events, I guess, in the past, whereby infrastructure projects started and just didn't finish. So when we started this, a lot of people like, what is MRT? What are you guys building? Are you sure you're gonna actually be able to finish it? So it was, like I said, we started in late 2013, the constructions. We couldn't clear up the land acquisition until late 2016. 3 years just to clear up the land. And that's why the progress was so delayed for this project that we will only reach about 49% by the end of 2016. That's 3 years after the project started. That's a very bad progress. And then after that, we have to do a major accelerations to catch up with the progress and to keep the target of its operation in March 2019. So there's a lot of effort that we have to do as the project owners with our consultant and our contractors, to get their buy-in so that they can come on board with us to finish the first MRT Jakarta, the first MRT in Indonesia. And I believe the contractors, were pretty happy with themselves that they have participated in these projects. Yeah. And of course, the fact that it is the first MRT system in Indonesia, there's a lot of, technically wise or engineering wise, there's a lot of new system that we have to implement, such as the fact it is the first tunneling with TBM in the city areas. And then we are having underground station, the first underground stations, using an automatic fare collection systems as well for our ticketing, and platform screen doors as part of our station design, and of course the signaling system itself. Because for years, since the independence of Indonesia, our train system in Indonesia is basically manual train control. Yeah, so this is when MRT Jakarta comes into place, this is the first time it is a train system that is automatically operated. So there's a lot of, we have to, besides the fact that we still have to acquire the new engineering knowledge, we have to manage the regulators and the regulation itself. Yeah, so while we are building it, we have to train the regulators so that they can understand what is the system that we are building, so that eventually they can issue us permits. So we train the permit, issuers. And of course, lastly is that we have to prepare the first operations, the first MRT operations. The MRT of Jakarta is being operated 100% by Indonesians. And we recruited 300 over people in Indonesia to be part of the company. And these people coming from outside Jakarta, most of them do not know what is MRT. They have not seen MRT before, and yet they are being expected to deliver the standard, the service standards of an MRT system. So there's a lot of trainings, a lot of benchmarking that we have to do for them. We send some of them to the other operators in Japan, in Hong Kong, in Malaysia. In fact, our drivers is trained in Malaysia by Prasarana, so that they can, we are very grateful to Prasarana who are willing to train our train operators. So so that they get to see what is the good standard, the right standards of MRT before they come back to Indonesia and then be ready to operate and serve the people of Jakarta. So since we are operated in 24th March of 2019, it's been a very good journey for us for the last 3 months or so. We estimated about 65,000 people per day of ridership, and now we are already at 80,000 people per day. So it's already exceeding our ridership estimations, and we hope in this year we can reach 100,000 people per day. And that is simply a good sign for us that the people in Jakarta is embracing this mode of public transportations. So, and that's what we need, the public support and the public confidence, because we will be building more MRT lines going to the future. And then again, we will be causing a lot of disruptions in the city. I mean, it's growing pains to the city, so we need all the supports from the people. And I think the success of the first line is simply to grab that confidence for us to move forward. And that how we strategize that as part of the operation preparation is that we did a lot of public campaign about so that they can be ready. What is it MRT and how can they use it MRT in the best possible way. So we ensure that the MRT system is friendly to the disabled. Yeah, so we consciously made a campaign for this, so that the people of Jakarta know that it's a system that is open to everybody. And of course, we are only 16 kilometers. We're just a small part of the whole network of public transportation in Jakarta. And I think we know that the key for the people to actually use public transportation is that it has to be well integrated between transport mode. And so that's what we did. We cooperate with the other operators like the BRT. There's a small fleets of public transport. We call it angkot. It's just a small minivan, it's to pick up people. And we even cooperate with the online operators like Grab and Gojek. Yeah. And so these just to give you a glimpse the network and the complications of the public transportation in Jakarta. And then next, and of course, to encourage the people of Jakarta to actually use it, then the commuter facilities surrounding the stations and along the corridor, it has to be properly provided. There was a survey done, I think was by Stanford. Maybe KPMG will have this information better than me, is that Jakarta people is one of the laziest people to walk. Yes, and it's so that is so true. That's why the Grab and the Gojek is thriving, in Jakarta, because people just want to be, transport from one point to a point without having to walk, So that's why we understand that, we recognize this. So when we build the MRT, we also have to build the pedestrian way. we have to build the walkway, we have to build the plaza, we have to build the park as well, so that people feel comfortable and convenience when they walk out from their office building to the next station entrance, instead of calling up a Grab or a Gojek to bring them to their final destinations. So this is another effort that we did, and of course the other way is through social medias, Instagram, Facebook, and etc. And then we have public events. We go to the schools because we know the children, the students, they would be the first one that be benefited, with the safe and convenient public transportations. And of course the apps. We launched the MRT apps 9 months before we start operations. People were saying that, what are you trying to do? Because you're not even operating. Why do you launch the apps? Well, because we want to put ourselves out there so that they can start exploring and then finding out more about MRT Jakarta. So, and that's for our phase 1. And now we are embarking to our second phase. The second phase is another 8 kilometers. It consists of 7 underground stations. It's smaller, shorter, but we are expecting, the more difficult engineering challenge. Basically, whatever you can think of, challenges in engineering, we can find it here in the second phase. So we are the engineers in MRT Jakarta. We are nervous, but well, we are engineers, so we are quite excited as well. This is a ground for us to finally test our engineering knowledge, and build our competency. At the moment, it's in the tendering stage. We are hoping that we can start to construct mid of next year, and finally complete it by the end of 2024, just in time for the next election. Just to give you a quick glimpse of what are the challenges that we are facing, like constructions in a narrow corridor next to a canal, and of course going to north, we are having a soft soil, marine clays, and then the fact that Jakarta is already known for its issue for land subsidence. So the design and the construction method have to really take into consideration of all this. And then the fact that this corridor going to the north, we are going into the old town of Jakarta. So along the stretch, if you can see from here, from the station called Sarina, all the way to Kota, there is a stretch of old shop houses that was built back in the 70s or 80s. And then at the Kota itself, it's the old town. It's the colonial area, so it's a heritage area. So again, we have to bear in mind the construction method and the monitoring of the works to ensure the safety of these old structures while we are constructing it. And of course, we're just building in front of the President Palace. We're just about 400 meters away from the President Palace. So yes, we almost didn't get to build these stations because security was the main concern, and then the government was saying, no, you cannot come near to the president's palace, and then fortunately the president himself said, yes, build the station there, so we managed to secure the station. So that's the very importance of willingness, leadership, willingness, and political willingness. Otherwise, nothing will happen. And then, of course, as I mentioned just now, the fact that we are facing engineering challenges and that we want to build more lines in the future in the shortest amount of time, we have to embark on new technologies, new technologies that allow us to build faster and safer, and digital platforms that will allow us to work more efficiently, and then less of reconstructing, like BIMs, common data environments, and of course new approaches for financing, procurements, including the land acquisitions approach, because again, financing is one of the key, if not the key parts to ensuring the implementations of our projects. And just lastly, the fourth part I mentioned here about ticketing and payment system, because now with MRT, and then we'll be having 2 LRT lines in Jakarta as well. And then we even have a high-speed rail coming up. And then the existing commuter lines, BRT, with all these many operators, to provide convenience for the user to use all this, is that an integrated ticketing system is very important. I know that in most countries you guys probably already have it, but we don't. We are not there yet in Jakarta, Indonesia, and this is a major challenge for us now to actually get this done so that the public has the convenience to use these public transportations. Okay, so this is where we are now, having building the North-South line. This is what we are expecting by 2027, with the East-West line is completed. And this is what the government has envisioned, which is to build another 230 kilometers in 10 years' time. So it's a huge ambition. It took us 10 years to build the first 16 kilometers, and then now we are supposed to build another 230 in the next 10 years. I don't know how to do it, but we gotta do it. At least we know that we have job security. And of course, the fact that obviously we need many more engineers to help us to deliver this. And in the light of why we are here today, I just want to show and to demonstrate that the first MRT Jakarta, the first MRT system in Indonesia was built by women as well. And we have many women in our company in the engineering. In fact, 33% of the directorate of the constructions are women from different fields of engineering, sitting in a different level of in the companies, engineers, department head, division head, director. And I'll just, in fact, I just want to show here that before this, there's no other train operators in Indonesia. There was only one. And then we are the second one. And then we are finally able to bring the first 9 female train drivers in Indonesia. So I'd like to close my session by showing you a video that we prepared not too long ago by my team, who went to a workshop with a group of university students, women, female, just to show them why that women can actually can thrive in engineering, and why they should participate in engineering. Okay.
Bisa diinformasikan.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much, Silvia. That's a very interesting presentation. I think that one map about all your development plans is saying if there are no job opportunities in the region, please come to Indonesia. I think that's what I should say. But no, nevertheless, I think I just want to quickly summarize. I hope you found this session very interesting in terms of information, very useful. For me, I think there's a lot of my takeaway was there's a lot of innovation opportunities for both existing real assets as well as new future green assets as well in terms of the use of technology and etc. So unfortunately, we don't have time for Q&A. I am still very tempted to ask a couple of questions, but I'll leave you all, I think, with some of the questions I had planned to ask some of the panelists, and perhaps you may have your own opinions as well, right? There's no wrong or right to this. So they were meant to be quick fire questions. The first one is a yes or no question. Do you think that driverless cars and autonomous vehicles will displace rail travel? I think that's going to be a very simple answer. It should be yes. No, it should be no. Sorry, it should be no. It should be no. It should not displace rail service. I think the second one is more like putting our thinking hats, thinking to the future. With new technology coming in and knowing our travel movements, will travel pods replace large coaches or cars? That's one. The next one was to the operators or the businesses here, what is more important to you, data and analytics or the security of the system? And the last one was, if you had $50 million to invest in the next initiative, would it be to improve customer service and experience, or would it be used to improve the management of your assets? No wrong or right, something to think about. Maybe you can discuss and debate with anyone else. But anyways, thank you very much again to the panelists. I hope you found it very useful. I hope you enjoyed the session. Thank you.